his child, or at least he's willing to pretend they are. So
yeah.
I need to qualify just so he'll start sending me Christmas and birthday baskets. You know, I gotta get into the family. Gotta get into the family, but
you gotta be Protoss though. Like Fear Dragon doesn't dote on the other NA kids that aren't Protoss.
Well, if Protoss ever find a way to reverse engineer the battlecruiser, I'll be all over it. Or bring back the Dark Archon. I would switch to Protoss full time if they had Dark Archons. They're just for some reason they forgot how to be cool. Protoss forgot how to be cool. Not my fault. Anyway, we're on Tropical Sacrifice, literally the greatest map of all time ever created in StarCraft. And in the bottom left, we have the red Zerg player. Representing Shopify Rebellion, she is Scarlett.
In the top right, as the blue Protoss player, he is DisK.
So yeah.
What's their score? DisK has never won against Scarlett, was that correct? Yes, indeed. 5-0 in matches, 11-1 in maps.
Yeah, you gotta really have something special prepared to deal with Scarlett, because she's a very strong macro player who loves to be aggressive whenever the opportunity presents itself, but she's not always willing to force it. So you can't rely on like baiting it all in and then her running out of steam. It's more like the moment that you think you're going to get away with something, boom, there's +1 Zerglings wrapped around your third base. And you're like, oh, I shouldn't have skipped the adapt, or they're boom, slipping inside of the natural. If you hesitate for even half a second on the pylon or the warp in block, like that's where she excels, is punishing any mistakes that you make, including trying to guess what she's going to do.
Scarlett is usually a very scary player to go up against because of that potential aggression, very common aggression, or just pinpoint attacks, really knowing where the weak link is in your armor, especially because she plays so much Protoss. But despite what is sometimes some of the like primo ZVP we get to see, some of the best EVP we get to see from Scarlett, it's kind of weird. It's like, it could be, if you're talking about 100% of a game, it could be 50% it being almost a perfectly played game by Scarlett, and then 50% being kind of like these weird mistakes, forced errors, and just overall not a confident looking Zerg player. So it's kind of hard to always pinpoint exactly where Scarlett is, because it kind of also affects like all of her matchups, but definitely like more particularly ZVP. She's had, you know, infamous problems with some of the units before, such as Adepts, which is actually going to go for. And it seems like she hasn't quite gotten like the full 100% handle on the new meta either, which I believe Patty Mac was able to use in at least one of their games. It's a great effect. You know, Blink Stalker just running around attacking and whatnot. So yeah, she can sometimes falter, as seen in this group. Otherwise, she could be, I suppose, some of the best EVP in the world. It just kind of just seems to depend on the day, or maybe the stylistic matchups as well, which I would say usually DisK should be comfortable, but DisK I wasn't actually expecting Resonating Glaives, so it's kind of throwing something in here.
Yeah, a little Neeb-esque sort of opening from our Protoss player. Definitely something that you would want to do against a person that you think might build a lot of Zerglings. So that's a fair read against Scarlett, because we know that she loves Lings, but it's not like she forces it every single game. This isn't the +1 melee rush. This isn't anything like that. She's getting a Roach Warren. She's droning up and just trying to stay on top of what DisK is doing. So I think if she gets a read on seeing this, 3 Adepts, a 4th one being warped in, yes, she's going to start Zerglings, but when this Roach Warren completes, I think we'll see her probably make a little modest investment to not die to this, because with Resonating Glaives, this is definitely the type of attack that can win a game very quickly. But you see the shades moving out. You see 5 Adepts, 6 Adepts now. If you're Scarlett, you've got to be thinking about how you're going to hold this. So still just Lings for the time being, and that can definitely get tricky if the Queens aren't able to do it all on their own. But it's going to be a lair next. I'm kind of surprised she's not building any roaches. Let's see how she holds on here.
I think what's happening is that she read it really, really well. She, I think she kind of noticed how many warp-ins were happening consecutively, so not more than 3. Just the amount of Adepts doesn't really point to a extended period of 4 gateways warping in. And then, yes, the actual Resident Glaives finished quite quickly, so DisK could have gotten this jump on an unsuspecting Zerg. The Warp Prism wasn't actually all that, quick comparatively.
That's true.
So Scarlett, I think she did realize that this wasn't a full-on 4-gate Resident Glaives. So she even started building Lings at 44 drones, actually, which is like a little bit more. It's like 41, right, that we see a lot of Zerg players stop at. And then, just said, you know what, I'm not concerned by this. Lings will get us around on this kind of small number of adepts. Let me go ahead and make sure I don't over-defend. And with that, this is one of those perfect game scenarios that I was talking about earlier. And I'm waiting for the other shoot a drop kind of situation where maybe she messes up the drone micro. And I'm like, well, shit. There's the other stuff that I was talking about. But so far, we're on kind of like perfect PvZ Scarlett right now.
I don't think you could have described that any better. No, I mean, DisK had just 3 warp gates. I wasn't even thinking about that aspect of it. Obviously, the Prism was a little bit late, but it's not even been sent with that main force. So perhaps DisK's plan was make her build a bunch of roaches at 44 drones, and then she doesn't have enough to deal with the Immortal Charge lot follow-up. But that will not end up being the case, as she maintains the healthy economy, as you've astutely pointed out, Zombie Grub. And we did not have the drone miss micro. So DisK pulls back with his modest amount of resonating glaive adepts, but I think we all know, even in a long game, they're units that their value falls off very quickly. It's like building a lot of Reapers. Once there's a real army on the map, you're not expecting to do much. Could eventually throw them in and try to just YOLO for workers later on, but might just keep everything together because there are still 3 Immortals out and it is a Roachling army. So that's still something to be a little bit afraid of, but maybe not without a Warp Prism actually with that army.
Right. Using this as harassment does open up an opportunity for a 1-2 punch. Also takes away the opportunity to actually reinforce the forward placed units. Going to be reinforcing from the 3rd base, which isn't that far away, I suppose, but that is going to be a problem. I'm just going to point out that a drone was sent across the map accidentally on a tack move and actually popped an Immortal Barrier. So if that affects this fight, that'll be amazing, but I don't think it will because Scarlett is more than prepared. Baneley's crashing in, forcing the split, which now means the Immortals don't have anything to protect them anyways. And that is it.
GG. Scarlett wins game number 1. I mean, textbook right there. The Banelings onto the Zealots. Never going to be a fun spot to be in. And Scarlett, just another day in the office. Really, really good read on that. Noticing the pace of the warp ends, the way that you mentioned that, Zombie Grub. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but you are an astute analyst of StarCraft 2 games.
I try. The key thing is just casting a billion games, right? And then never referencing your own games, which are very bad. Just harkening back to games that are good.
That's true. I prefer to cast very few games and constantly reference my own, which are all unrelated because nobody knows how to use battle cruisers even when they do build them. They teleport them into the middle of 12 Queens and they're like, guess I'm going to fly them home now.
I do love when you can very astutely correct how a pro gamer is playing battle cruisers. I'm not even being facetious. I think you legitimately you point to it and I'm like, yeah, Nate's right. The pro gamer is wrong.
If players like Maru and Clem microed them as well as they can be, I think we'd have a lot of people clamoring for nerfs. But I'm happy to just keep collecting free wins on the ladder and ruining people's days. So that's okay. That's okay. We could get a couple more. We could get a couple more GSL wins, maybe your world championship. If when there's a million Lings and Banes, we build something other than just Marines, guys. I know it's really hard to not do that, but it can be done. Anyway, we're loading into game 2.
Yes, we are. That's a pretty perfect Scarlett ZVP. DisK tried to throw something a little bit different. I want to say for him, not that Resident Glaives is like so out there, once every 10 games it'd be actually very reasonable. But for DisK, I was 100% expecting like Stargate into, some solid macro gameplay, Blink or Charge Immortal Archon, either one. But threw one to Twilight Council, tried to trick her up, did not work out. Now I might revert back to that macro on a rather large map. Day to see coming up here in the top right for Shopify Rebellion. She is Scarlett.
Shopify Rebellion been giving her a lot of love. She's been torching through this tournament. On the left side, we have representing Apprentice Esports. He is DisK.
And don't know if DisK has really experimented with any other way wackier builds too, because again, the depth thing, you throw it in one every dozen games.
Full
totally
King Cobra.
fine.
Full
Exactly.
King Cobra.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I would like to see that. As much as we've memed and joked about King Cobra on the EU side of things, he at the very least has forced all of the best players in Europe into like 30-minute long games, which is something that is very difficult to do. You know, like just in a random ladder game, you're like, oh, I'm matched against someone 500 MMR higher. I'll just turtle. You're usually dead within like 2 minutes. It's not supposed to be like that, but some people have some very, very like, they pull their strategies from the dark hole, you know, like they can work, but they change you. You're never quite the same after you carry your Mothership Rush Cyril and bring it to a 30-minute match you can't win.
Did you see Multiverse of Madness?
Oh yeah.
Did you like it?
Banger. I enjoyed some local stuff. We went to the theater.
Gotcha.
It was a great time. I was a little out of it. I was a little disoriented. I was having a fun time, and I won't lie. Watching Jim Halpert get turned into spaghetti, that was the highlight. I watched that scene at least once a week to remind myself how cursed our reality has become as well.
Yeah. I've lost track of some story elements when I've participated in local stuff as well. So. Yeah. That would have been a good one. I was on an airplane though, so I just sat and watched, and I thought it was okay. You know, not my favorite.
Since I moved out here, all the movie theaters are horrible. I found it's like I went to like an abandoned. There's actually no part of this mall that's open. It's the one I told you that has the Spirit Halloween now, but it does have like a rotting movie theater at the end that just never got amputated. Still has the sticky floors from the 80s and 90s there. So yeah, there's no way in hell I'm ever going back there sober. But I enjoyed the movie for what it was worth.
Okay, yeah, it was all right. We do have something interesting and unique coming out from DisK once again. So I believe last time they played, which was last regionals, DisK did try and go kind of straight up more so, maybe like a little bit of here or there, like move outs that were supposed to kind of catch her off guard, but nothing really extreme. Now I think DisK is like, even though it's 4 months, 5 months later, is just saying, okay, I'm not going to defeat her in a straight up game, which is fair. I would not have minded another chance for DisK to throw out 2 or 3 games of macro game, but this is his choice. This is what he thinks he's got to do. Fair enough. And this time around, Robo Bay on 2 bases. So I don't know if this is going to be more like a Nina thing or a Zaun thing, but could be Disruptor drop into Colossus push, could be just Disruptor drop into macro. I am expecting Disruptor though. That's the key thing.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a full Nina thing, it could be a Colossus drop, and if there's Lings, then yeah, that can be kind of a thing. But you're looking for the drone kills. You want that big pickoff, so I think Disruptor makes a lot of sense. We're just gonna have to wait for that Warp Prism to finish. Actually, that's not true. It got queued up. It's a Disruptor. I checked. We're good.
Okay, there you go. So, oh man, I'm trying to remember TSL or something. There was a match where someone did what I assume still was a play on Zaun's Disruptor Colossus push, except they never made a Colossus. And I remember the map, I remember the situation so distinctly. I cannot remember the players, but they only went Disruptors, and it just, TLDR did not work out. There was a certain something lacking, as well as just with this type of build, it is, I think, scouted, and you know the follow-up once you scout it, which when it was created was more up in the air. But now people have kind of gotten wise to what a Warp Prism opener that's not Archons, that's a Disruptor or Colossus does. Ooh, but not if you go double Stargate afterwards. Okay, if Scarlett's
all right.
What I was talking about, she'd be very wrong.
All right. Okay. Maybe we do get a nice cursed little special strategy out of here from DisK. So there's the Prism. He's got Gravitic Drive. That's the move speed buff. Gets a big shot. 8 drones in the bag. And that's going to take a tremendous amount of steam from the engine of Scarlett to use to shut down the economy. And if the economy gets rolling, you get that 3rd base set up, you slow crawl to the 4th, and you are going to be able to max out big time on some air. And we'll have to see if it's going to be just a big Phoenix swell after this, since there are already some spores, or if it's something just straight to the tier 3. Another 2 drones picked off. But hey, I think he's getting the value that he's looking for from this opening.
Plus, I think Scarlett did not know what this was. right? You can check her vision now. She knows about the third base, of course, but other than that, she only ever saw a third gas. So I think she was apprehensive that it was going to be a different variation of a depth. So she kind of cut drones at that point, thinking I need to prepare for something. Then when she saw the warp prism, which was basically when it dropped its disruptor, by the way, like, oh, another fantastic shot. 8 more drones go down. You know, she takes the bad shot. We see her kind of grimace on camera as well. And then she pumps out 12 drones. And then she just pumped out 12 more. So of course she's fixing her economy, but actually for what this game is, economically, she already kind of took that hit just because she was uncertain. And now I can only assume the follow-up strategy is also going to hit her pretty hard because no one is really doing what DisK is doing. Maybe, you know, there's going to be one person who's like, no, this one person did it. But point is, it's not super common.
Disruptor drop into double Stargate Phoenix. Like, there's a universe where the prism shows up. The queens are just already there at the edge of the cliff, you know. They kind of shove it back. It loses shields. And that first shot comes a little bit later. It doesn't quite get that damage. And we have a totally different scenario. But for Scarlett, you kind of want to be able to get out there and do something. She likes to find those opportunities to be aggressive. But I think that this is just a great way to play against someone like her. You force her to be defensive, force her to be on the back foot. And anytime that she's trying to micro those lings or look for an opportunity to counterattack or harass, she could take a huge purification over to her drone line. And just keeping that attention span occupied like that is a very, very powerful thing to do in a game like StarCraft.
This is the first reveal of the Phoenix, coinciding with the Overseer scouting it, by the way. So it is just straight up first reveal. She gets distracted. 10 drones go down. I guess it is also now worth mentioning that she is playing from Korea, right? So there's also the ping issue coming into effect. You know, once she gets all set up, once she gets 80 drones and a huge Baneling army or whatever she does, there's a little bit more of a prep kind of situation, and then she can collapse in. But as far as microing and splitting drones and tracking what her opponent is doing when he's doing something really weird, oh, it's definitely throwing her off 100%. DisK, hopefully, all macro going well, has us in the bag.
Yeah, 34 drones have died in the making of this film. So a lot of economic damage from DisK. Scarlett has been keeping up, but all that larva being spent on drones, I mean, that's 36 larvae that have not been put towards units. That's 36 larvae not getting the supply up a little bit earlier. So everything just comes through a little bit more slowly, but that is a credit to her as well, that she doesn't really let it affect the overall state. It just reduces that army size. But Zombie Grub, this is a very powerful army that's following up, and we're going to find out what she's really made of with this attack. She does have a lot of money to spend, so it's a lot of Ravagers, Queens, and Banelings, bit squishy. So that Disruptor that's still with the army is going to be a big factor too.
And again, splitting, right? It's going to be a bit difficult. Now, 2 Disruptors, a Colossus, just to add a little bit of that range, a little bit of the consistent shooting, also wash off any lings that try to get us around. I mean, if DisK had just played super passive with all this harassment, I think she makes a comeback 100%. But actually hitting an attack, actually going for it as he maxes out, this should do very well. Let's watch how the micro unfolds. Bailey's on the left side, late force fields, just trying to blink away. And that actually is not such a great start for DisK right there, as the roaches collapse in. But so many stalkers do still live. Now the Lings trying to get those last couple of shots on the very weakened stalkers. And there is a forced full retreat. Not at all how DisK wanted that to go.
Yeah, this is the scary thing though, because it's Scarlett. So while that's a fight that I think a lesser Zerg loses, and then the game can end. But because it's Scarlett, it's not that she just held. She's got Adrenal coming in now. She's got Vipers coming out, Aspire, and you're like, oh my goodness, the next time that he tries to make a little move out, she's going to be able to just whoop, 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 just grab those guys in with the yoinks on the Vipers. And this army is not going to be very powerful with just Stalkers.
No, that is the huge problem. Scarlett, she played Zerg very correctly, despite all of the harassment really keeping her down. She had huge swells of drones while limiting the army supply. And then when an army was actually on her doorstep, she not just got to a decent army supply, which decent might even be giving it too much credit. You know, army supply wise, they were even, which we know is usually not beneficial to the Zerg player. But it had potential with that huge surround, and she set it up wonderfully. Do have to call out DisK not checking for that back surround. You know, that could have been the improvement that could have changed the course of history, certainly the course of this game, but he didn't. But all kudos to Scarlett for just playing the Zerg mechanics as correctly as possible.
Yeah, getting it done. And we do have that Fleet Bacon with +1 for the air coming in for DisK, as I don't think that there's going to be too many more options against this big army than to try to take it to the skies. Nice Zealot run by will cancel the hatch in the northwest. So that's going to take Scarlett's attention elsewhere. And a big Baneling run by over towards the 4th. Getting a detonation on these workers would be nice. It's not the +2 Banelings of Doom. So just getting one over there wouldn't cut it anyway. But the Stalkers just kind of blink in, face tank it. And that will allow DisK to focus his attention back on the front.
It does suck that DisK didn't get more from that push. What could have even been a game-ending push if Scarlett had come in from one angle. I will say that this has successfully gotten DisK into a part that I also think that he is good at, which is a macro game. Of course, I can't really say that he's better than Scarlett just with Scarlett's track record, but I don't think we're like, oh, well, now that Scarlett's alive, good luck, DisK. He still absolutely has a chance. I think we get to really see what he's made of, too, where, of course, last game we really didn't get to see it much at all. And hopefully we do have a couple of good deliveries on the engagements, a little more back and forth, a little more of that micro v micro. You know, it's definitely possible. And maybe if DisK, you know, doubles or triples the amount of High Templars, little Nina, you know, bringing that energy back into it.
You remember the Nina 16 High Templar? Exactly. Not Hit Squad, the Doom Squad, zoning the entire map with endless chains of storm. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that with the carriers. That was, actually, I think that was the game I had the nightmare about.
Yeah. Is that what it was?
I think I was trapped casting that game for another 2 hours. Like, Nina just somehow kept making units on that one base, and Scarlett just could not get through the storms. Yeah, I think that's my Halloween.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. Pretty good engagement here. There's not a whole lot of Banelings left over, and Scarlett was definitely wanting to retreat, so good blink forward. Zealots are taken care of. Hatchery still remains alive, and now we do have Broodlords on the docket. 9 Corruptors on the way. Spine Crawlers coming down to protect the bases as Scarlett builds up a decent bank. DisK not moving on into actual Fleet Beacon units yet. Got the possibility to, but wants to try and actually do one more pre-Broodlord attack. It's got to be now, though. And even then, the Broodlords might still be made, and the Stalkers are going to have to hope they can jump under them.
Yeah, every bit of time that Scarlett can buy here, I think, is really big. Because like you were saying, those Broodlords are going to be a huge factor, since it's like the carriers are the option you want to default to, but the Tempest are the ones that give you that real firepower over the air. And I think that Scarlett, she's definitely got a lot of practice from this, from just the way that people have been playing that air style over the years. So I'm very interested to see the way that she goes into this. How many Broodlords would she make so far? It is just the 3. They do take up more supply, I'm pretty sure, from the Corruptors. So you can't just make them while you're maxed out like you can with Banelings.
Exactly. And that's actually her limiting factor right now. She needs to get rid of some units on the field, or maybe some of the defensive roaches. Might be the play there. BT is very unsuccessful, just running into the army. A waste for DisK, who is not banking too much yet. But now DisK also needs to get rid of some supply, right? Because we do officially have that Broodlord transition. You can really only hope so much that the Stalkers get under those Broodlords. So unless DisK thinks that can happen, it's time to throw away some units and get more carriers.
Yep, and what comes next is the Hydralisk Den just finished, so eventually you give Scarlett enough time, you're not just going to be trying to dive under Broodlords with Stalkers. That's not going to be possible. You need Stargates, because Lurkers will ruin your day. And there it is, 2 more Stargates. That +2 air is still on the way. Now also getting the shield upgrade is DisK. But you're right, he's going to have to start trading out, because he already has a few Stargates, and he's not building those units that we know that he's going to be trying to go for. So the trick, don't overextend though, right? I feel like if he moves everything here and it all dies, then Scarlett can just kill him. So you don't want to lose everything. You kind of have to slowly trade. Yeah.
Yes, you don't ever want to kind of reveal your transition by giving away 20 units, 30 units, whatever it is, opening up a big gap of supply then. So little trickle, and then it looks like DisK is planning on getting to those capital ships, playing that super late game, which definitely at this point now. I mean, we could talk a little bit about the differing meta and how maybe there's a little more of an even history between the two as far as like how much they've played of the current meta. But if we're talking supreme late game Legacy of the Void ZVP, Scarlett has more experience against much better players. Basically, Neeb a billion times. Who's very good here. So
Neeb a billion times. Yes, Neeb.
yes. Yeah. 7 years of Legacy of the Void at this point, right? And a lot of that was Scarlett versus Neeb.
Has it barely been that long? I'll never forget that launch party playing poker and sipping Ravagers. Oh,
Ravagers.
Good times. Good times.
Those were good, man. Those were good. They had whatchamacallit in them, make them smoky.
Yeah, we had corrosive bile. Literal corrosive bile cocktails. It was great. A lot of people were, of course, ripped to pieces by the acid, but it was otherwise delicious.
I was definitely ripped to pieces, but not because of the acid.
Yeah, well,
because of the liquor content.
Sometimes it'd be like that. So this is a decent way to try to trade some stalkers. It's a lot of them, but just kind of YOLOing in, clicking on some brood lords, and then being like, oh no, not all my units made it away. Now I can build more carriers. So, yeah, I guess that does open up a little bit of supply. I'm kind of impressed didn't lose all of them, because that's certainly a pretty deep path in to take. And Scarlett's still building more broodlords. So we also need to keep in mind that there needs to be a portion of her army that can deal with the ever-increasing number of carriers. We have 3 right now and 3 more on the way.
Well, yoinks are always good. I mean, if you can actually get them, of course. That's what the feedback is for, if it works out perfectly. And then eventually Scarlett can go into true mass air and get rid of these Ravagers as well. Add on more Corruptors. But, you know, she might be very experienced with this. I will say her frustration with the situation probably hasn't changed over 7 years. That is, that it can be a very, sometimes boring, let's be real. Although, a little less so nowadays. As well as just elongated. It's just, you know you're in for the long haul, which...
There's no way to quickly end this game, even if you knew you were going to win, you know, like... The prophecy would tell you that it's going to take at least another 15 minutes.
Yes, yeah. I don't know DisK's opinion on such things, by the way, guys. Sorry, he's not been interviewed as much. I haven't hung out with him, but sometimes it's pretty much ditto between the Zerg and the Protoss. They're like, we understand how this is going to go. We're going to go through the motions, but dear God. Okay, at least 20 more minutes of this. Cool, gotcha.
Yeah. And it's a nice slow burn. DisK is going to continue to poke and try to clear the creep spread, but you don't want... I mean, you know that your army only gets better as you add more carriers. So, and especially because Scarlett has such a well-rounded army, she will never have this number of corruptors that you're worried about, like diving in and just one-shotting everything. She's got 12, and she's making 1 more. So it has to be a combination of things. You know, if you don't overstep, then you won't get fungled. If you don't get fungled, they can't bile you. And if they can't bile you, then it's just 12 corruptors versus 7 or whatever carriers. And the carriers are going to win that fight. So for DisK, there's not so much pressure to move out and try to get in there, because overextending into the Spore Crawler field gives Scarlett the most anti-air that she needs to actually kill this army.
I'm a little worried, actually, looking at the banks. Usually kind of expect the flip scenario. There really haven't been very many engagements. The resources trade is pretty even, especially for a ZVP late game. But DisK expanded faster, and I'm not even sure, like, really denied bases isn't so much it, as much I think Scarlett played very conservatively on 5. So as it tried to triple expand to the top left, right, which she could try, but she's not bothering to do so. So, she's kind of hoping for the one battle to go really, really, really well, where it's actually the Protoss here that can remax quicker. Well, Larva mechanic aside, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. Seismic Spines is about to finish. So as far as that anti-ground force goes, I mean, there's already a bunch of Broodlords, but the Lurkers will help anchor that, I suppose. Revelation will be used to tag. And I think it's also just kind of an insurance policy, because Scarlett doesn't have Hydras. She's building 1. The supply, she's been maxed out for a while, but she will have that as an answer to the Stalkers down the line. Maybe a little bit of a defensive bulwark, what have you, as that air carapace will finish. And there's not really any reason for Scarlett to force things until she has all of her upgrades, because those are very important for the carrier versus corruptor or broodlord, whatever is in the air situation. You want to make sure you've got everything I think you can have, so that you're not leaving anything on the table.
Well, ditto for DisK, who is not getting +2 armor for the carriers right now.
Yeah, that's also weird. I don't know why they both aren't focusing on upgrades when you have this much money in the bank. DisK is just going to step forward, eat a couple hits, throwing out some storms. Okay. I mean, if it doesn't turn into Turtle Upgrade Fiesta, I'm okay with that as well. But if we're going to Turtle, we might as well get all the upgrades.
Yes. Yeah.
I hope that's not a hot take.
I don't think so. When all the upgrades, talking about that, I would also discuss, is it Tectonic Destabilizers? So we don't have Tempest on the field, but I think they might eventually be included because we do have a Spore Crawler Forest. I don't know what it is. I don't cast Brood War, but I always want to call them Spore Colony Forests, which is insane because that's not even a thing in Brood War. You don't even get that many. But I don't know. It's definitely Spore Crawler.
I've just always called them spores, you know.
Or that.
Spores. There you go. You kind of get both there. But
can't believe the caster doesn't know the full name.
But you can't call the spines Sunkens though. Then that's against the law.
That's way off. That's silly.
I think my I guess reputation for knowing upgrade names kind of absolves me of abbreviating other things. But
yeah,
that's neither here nor there. A couple queens are going to get caught. Not really a huge deal, as they didn't really have a whole lot of energy. But Scarlett's going to turn that supply into Hydras and possibly those extra lurkers, which can be a great tool for zoning away the Templar. It's not quite 16, but 8 full energy High Templar, that can do a lot of work for DisK.
Yes, it can. I was looking at those units lost as the 2 infestors got cut off. Now that's 4 infestors in total that died. That's not too big of a deal. But you brought up High Templars. Only 1 High Templar has died in the making of this game. That's actually pretty impressive. Again, there haven't been too many real scuffles, but good unit retention from DisK. Not bad unit retention from Scarlett. It's just that, again, she didn't take as many bases. So when she loses 2 infestors and remakes 6 more, that was most of her bank at one point. Of course, again, no engagement. She's building another one back up, but she does have to be mindful of that.
Yeah, it's like that awkward scenario where it can end 2 ways. Like you don't have enough larva to spend all your money if you take a big fight and trade, or you're investing so much into all of the bases and the static defense that you end up in this awkward spot. But one of the things I do like about this situation for Scarlett is that she has been kind of efficiently trading the drones out. She's got a very large amount of army supply. DisK has 13,500 minerals and 6,500 gas. There's no reason for him to have 75 probes anymore. I'm
true.
I would be offended if by the end of this game we don't go full Fist of Neeb level for DisK. Right? You could trade out 40 of those probes, get like 2 more carriers, exaggerating a little bit, get like 4 or 5 more carriers, and then you've got a truly horrific, terrifying army to engage into. Because at some point this is going to mine out, but you might just be waiting for everything to mine out too, since it seems like we might get there, Zombie Grub. We might go all the way. I think we're going all the way on this.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's where we're headed, man.
Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will turtle.
So, agreed. DisK, especially now, I think would be a good time to give away like 20 probes, because he's not using all 75 probes, even with the new base. I don't think he will. So definitely agree. But yeah, maybe wait till it's literally all mined out before giving away all your probes, of course. For Scarlett, as I was saying, she not only didn't expand aggressively, she kept at a very low drone count pretty much the entire game. Like really, comparatively to a lot of ZBPs. She got down below 80 pretty quick. So basically, I guess her plan was to have a indestructible army, certainly couldn't be broken defensively, and then play a little like not musical chairs exactly, not ring around the rosy, but just turn the map, right? So take the top right minerals and gas and then move to the top left. And then I guess maybe when she takes the top left and all those minerals and gases, actually engage? Or maybe not. We're going to be waiting about 10 more minutes to find out what happens when she effectively mines out the map alongside with DisK.
I've changed my mind, by the way. I'm invoicing Wardy for letting him go to sleep early and not doing the final match. Yeah, he's comfortably in bed. He's counting sheep. He saw the double Stargate, and he's like, I'm going to support my fellow castmates. He saw the double Stargate after the Disruptor killed 8 drones, and he's like, oh, F this, I'm out. Yeah,
it's like the end of Robin Hood Men in Tights, where the guy's dying. She's like, let me be your wife. And he's like, fine. And then she drags him away, and he's like, I've changed my mind. Let me die. I also have changed my mind. This is no gusto.
Yeah, we're just chilling. Something will be a catalyst. I don't know exactly what. I mean, it's like you have recall available. So I'd still like the idea of trying to work around the outside of the air where the infestors and stuff can't get you, and maybe try to do a little recall action as you scoop the outside, you know, clear up the main base, at least force Scarlett to rebuild the tech. She doesn't actually have that much of a gas bank, so if she had to rebuild her spires or a hive, that could end up being a meaningful amount of gas. But at this level, you usually just see the focus become, all right, move the big army, look for the big fight, but you're avoiding the big fight, so don't look for the big fight.
Well, the other thing is that DisK could be adding in a second recall. Could get a mothership for that purpose, right?
Yeah, well, he doesn't want chat. I think he's just scared that chat will write 400 if it dies. Excuse me, when it dies.
His laptop will heat up if people spam the chat 400.
Yeah, exactly.
Very mindful, very mindful. Oh, this is actually quite the expedition. This is dangerous, man. A recall is available, the old-fashioned recall, so maybe that's the plan here. I'd actually say I take the engagement, right? All the interceptors are out.
Yeah, where's the infestors? He's attacking the eggs. He's attacking the eggs and the broodlings.
Oh, that's
how is the AI targeting the eggs here? What is happening?
Oh my god! Oh my god! This is everywhere, man. The High Templars were also being focus fired while the air army of DisK was attacking eggs, so there wasn't as many storms as there should have been. But then the spellcasters weren't really there for Scarlett, so it was still kind of a weird engagement for her to actually force. Now they're here, getting a bunch of fungals, as the Void Rays actually have expended the prismatic alignment. It was on the entire time, pretty sure, but it is here. They kill the corruptors, now they got a skedaddle, and everything else coming forward, I guess. But what an engagement. It was kind of unideal for both of them. But who has the bigger bank? DisK does.
I don't know how after all of that posturing, it turns into the carriers getting picked off one by one while they're shooting an egg, the only unit in the game that can withstand 20 carriers attacking him with +3. The egg has 10 armor, and the carrier actually does not do damage to them. So I feel like I don't know if I gained a new brain wrinkle. I might have just lost one, but yeah, DisK still has enough money to rebuild whatever it is that his heart desires.
Right. Yeah, I actually would not have minded a full Gateway remax, but he did save some of those capital ships and Void Rays, actually. So going back into the max out on that is fine as well. Scarlett, that is the one bank she's really going to have. Even if she eventually takes these bases back, I assume there's going to be a few more scuffles. It's just a super expensive army, so there really is only one remax anyways, and this isn't even a remax. She's still struggling to get maxed out. Oh, he finally, yeah, that was still
finally
when the probe
starting to kill his
high.
probes. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I think 55. I think you can. I can go lower.
Well, I will get the Nexus back up at the very least, because for sure right now he's not using 55 probes.
No.
17 out of 2 on the 5th base.
All I'm saying is whether he feels like he needs to or not, Scarlett has a huge army, and I feel like you want every unit. I'm not gonna pretend like he needs probes to mine minerals when he has 14,000. Like he could literally warp in 150 zealots. Not that would be a good idea, because it definitely wouldn't, but it would look awesome.
No. Oh man, Scarlett's using Neural Parasite. I mean, I don't know if she really planned on using it in that engagement anyways, because the infestors were late. But that seems like something Zergs would get. How long have we been kind of like Lake Arm Turtle? For 10 minutes at least, right? I feel like you get that. Yeah. 25 minutes in, not 30 minutes
I think once you hit in Legacy of the Void. Like at first we had this expectation that games would be long, and then Legacy of the Void came out and they're like, okay, we're gonna delete this swarm host, and suddenly we kind of got back to normal. But now I think once you get like over that 35 mark, like once you're pushing 40 minutes, then you get like the Turtle Club VIP access.
Turtley for the Turtle Club.
Turtle. How many more references can I make? If this game keeps going, you guys better hope that it ends for your own sake.
I'm just happy so far we've mostly referenced things we both know.
Well, you've got great taste in media, Zombie Grub. Not everybody out there has seen Rush Hour, so it's a hard life.
That's absurd. I can't believe there's someone out there who hasn't seen Rush Hour.
Yeah, real tragedy. Gets another revelation on the air army, sees that it is a hop, skip, and a jump away. So this is where it's just so awkward. Like, the static defense from Scarlett is somewhere I want to give another compliment, because if I was DisK, this is one of the last bases that you are going to mine out. This is probably the last base you're going to mine out. It's also a staging ground right outside of everything that Scarlett has. So why not just slam down a crap ton of batteries and cannons with your 15,000 resources? If you lose your army and this base, you're probably out of the game. And I think even with 5,000 gas, I almost feel confident saying that. But I do think Scarlett is running out of money, but she's also still got these two bases that have the majority of their resources left that she's taking on the left side.
Yeah, no, there's still some mining left to be done. No tap outs yet. No desperation even yet, because I feel like you might have been concerned when you were locked on 170 supply of Scarlett, but just never pushed. So, all right, back to the slow grind, which is taking one base at a time and hoping for the best engagement possible, which I know that last engagement was kind of, as I said, like not great from both of them. So for Scarlett, that's really bad because she doesn't have the bank. But if she took a better engagement, which is 100% possible and likely that it was better, she could win like by a huge amount. You know, she gets a fungal on a bunch of clumped up units, deletes the High Templars in similar fashion, and parasitic bomb, and everything else. That army can disappear. It's just that the fight that she ended up taking was really awkward. I'm surprised it didn't go worse, but DisK also had his own problems.
Yeah, probes try to go tase the hatchery. They get picked off, and now DisK is at a similar number of workers to Scarlett, and he can have that full Giga max out going for him.
Yeah, even army supply after all that. All right.
Scarlett has that changeling in DisK space, and I know that she's worried about the move out. Okay, DisK is gonna push. Is he gonna actually push, or is this like a little shove, a little pump fake, trying to get you to flinch, and then so then you can say I made you flinch for no reason, like a jerk?
Maybe.
Maybe it's a real push.
Could be real.
You think he's going in?
Yeah. Once again, all the interceptors are out. Spellcasters are here. Hopefully this time the High Templars don't get bodied like most immediately, but good fungal on almost every single Void Ray. So gotta respect that. The High Templars, they gotta toe that line, not get killed by the Broodlords, but actually get the feedbacks and what they want. And that didn't play out super correctly for DisK.
Does get a couple of feedbacks towards the end of that, but the Infestors spent most of their energy, so not that vulnerable. And this is the Corruptor count where, like you were saying, as soon as the Storm is off the table, you can just right-click and kind of murder everything, but you just need to make sure the carriers don't have that time to unleash their DPS. And there's only a handful of batteries and cannons, so those die very fast. The Lurkers are positioning to cut off where the High Templar can engage from. And the revelation on the back side of this. So the dance continues, a little back and forth, a little shimmy.
I know we memed on the mothership earlier, but now I'm really going to harp on it, actually. I do think it's a mistake to have a mothership. 400, but seriously,
because like you could send hypothetically, you could send the Void Rays around the air side, could have tried to snipe the Hive or the Spire or anything. Like Scarlett has 1,200 gas. Could you imagine if she had to spend a 200 gas on Spires or, rebuilding a Hive so she couldn't get Vipers or her Infestors or literally anything now? She is in a spot where she has to play for like this crazy efficiency against the most efficient Protoss army that exists, when DisK still has, as Guy in chat said, I mean, he's the boss of Bank of America now. He's got all the money. He is crushing it, economically speaking. But he's not going to risk himself. There's not really any reason for him to do that until he knows Scarlett can't replace stuff. There you go, finally. And this is what you use the recall for. This is what you could use the recall for. You also have the speed upgrade, which helps here too.
Yeah, okay, he's gonna leave. 100%. I think mobility could be played around with a bit more from DisK, but I was gonna point out the previous kind of engagement we had. They do help protect the High Templars. Definitely not when it's a full-on engagement and there's overseers every which way and fungals every which way. No, they don't help out then. What they do help out with is some of like the tags, the poking in, the kind of escaping out, and the mothership would cloak when the overseers are in surveillance mode or with the main army, and the broodlings are still skittering along the ground, right? Because they go on a little bit longer, even when the broodlings are like, okay, we're not gonna commit. That's when the mothership protects those things. If the army cannot, and sometimes the army doesn't get around to actually killing those freaking broodlings fast enough, but a mothership just goes cloak. Sorry. And I'm like, it might be a very small
point. It's about taking away
options.
It's about taking away options from your opponent. No, totally on the same page.
But if it saves, you know, 6 High Templars, or in this game, I suppose more than that, if they save 10, 12 High Templars over the course of a 45-minute game, I think that's absolutely that's worth 400, 400.
Yeah.
Or 800, 800, whatever. How many motherships would have to actually made?
Whatever it takes, damn it. We're 36 minutes into this game with no end in sight. Scarlett has those 2 left bases. There is still a decent amount of money. There's a lot of gas left. There's a lot more resources she can gather to throw at this. And what I want to see is one of them try to make that move for the production, because if Scarlett feels comfortable, she can try to rebuild some of that stuff preemptively and then just go for the production of DisK. And she is finally making that move when she cleaned that 1 base up. And DisK's army is still just chilling on the right side. So he finally is going to do what he should do. Go for the hive, get the infestation pit, get the everything. And I do not believe that we have backup tech for Scarlett. The Greater Spire is in her old 3rd base.
Yeah.
But that is it, other than the spawning pool she's making. Everything else is in the main or natural.
Ooh, I don't know why their army was out there. Maybe trying to clear up creep, but just catch a couple of units. Yeah, I do think you take this opportunity to go for her main base. I don't think DisK actually wants to give up his main, though.
No, you definitely don't. I think it's way more costly to rebuild it for him, but at least he has some of that bank. The problem is the bank would actually get chewed up quite a bit if he had to rebuild 5 Stargates, like Anna Fleet.
For sure.
It adds up.
So I do hope that DisK does something to respond to this. Right now, maxed out. It's just kind of hoping for 1 carry or 1 DT, okay, which is now lazy.
Yeah.
It's okay.
This is the downside of playing like the most passive possible way, that he's like, I don't really want to risk pushing all the way in. I don't also want to run back to the left, because then you'll go for my only last mining base, even though I have an infinite amount of money and can retake it if I need to. But that's the hesitation might cost him if it keeps up like this, because once that infrastructure is done and gone, the money becomes much less important.
And just a note here, as we have potentially an engagement, DisK is that actually at the army supply. It says got 2 carriers locked in depowered Stargates, so that's a bit awkward.
So he's got 6 supply times 2. Wow, don't kill that Stargate, Scarlett.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no way she could know that.
That was a pretty big fungal. Those 2 pretty big fungals. I think that might be it for the infestors, because some of them were feedbacked, but there's only 2 High Templars left. That's not that many storms, in fact.
I like see
one of them's out of storms
in there, maybe. Yeah,
that is it. That is it. No storms in play. I don't know, man, but he's gonna go for it. Void Rays prismatically aligned. Carriers kind of do a last second, just, you know, moving away from each other with a parasitic bomb, but another fungal on top of the Void Rays. The Corruptors just evacuate as long as they can anyways for re-engaging in DisK. He is currently down in supply. Still got that bank, but now the production is in question.
Yeah, gotta lead him to the spores. Lead him to the spores. The Corruptor's now fighting over the spores. Helps kill the interceptors, and that's it. GG, Scarlett.